My name is Brian Sullivan. I've been in the industry for roughly 30 years, and um, I've started my own conference. I've written a book. I was a participant in a second book that became an Amazon bestseller. I am director of design strategy at Sabre, and I teach at UNT and SMU. And then I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Jay, to do a quick intro of yourself. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, my background's a little different. I started off in the animation motion graphics industry, owned multiple studios, and then I transitioned over to user experience. And it's really all about problem solving. And what I discovered is design strategy was totally in alignment with the way I used to solve problems in my other business. So that was kind of a great discovery to find out that really this problem solving methodology that we're going to talk today is pretty universal across a lot of industries.
Now, we're being a little snarky with the cover photo here because most people think of design strategy as just being people that put, uh, or design thinking as just being people that put sticky notes on a wall. What these people are actually doing is problem solving, and creative problem solving is what I would say. So, the textbook definition of design thinking is it's a framework that translates user needs into products, services, and experiences. And we purposely use the word framework because there's a lot of flexibility, which we'll show you here in a moment. The other thing that we like to say, it's highly collaborative. It yields better, more innovative results because you're getting a lot of different perspectives. Okay, that's why it's very inclusive. We include development, we include product, sales, customers, super, super collaborative. The next thing that we like to say is that it can be applied broadly to products, processes, and customer engagements. And we've done it to redesign an entire application or experience, to create or illustrate a new product concept. At Sabre, we like to use Figma prototypes, and we do this in upfront early design to see if this is the right direction that we want to go. We've reimagined the next generation of an existing product. So you might think of the second bullet as revolutionary innovation, the third bullet as evolutionary innovation. So it's the difference between something totally new and going from 1.1 to 1.2. We've created a digitally enabled regional sales process. So again, this gets into how we can use design thinking for business process reengineering, rethink the global onboarding process for a business unit. And one of the things we like to say is that design thinking must be interdisciplinary. And so here you can see that our three-legged stool includes product, sales, and tech. Product, we would include product managers, marketing, TPMs, design and user research. With tech, it would be product owners, solution architects, developers, QA, design production, which would be people working side by side with developer. Sales is something that a lot of people don't think of right away, but sales talks to customers all the time. At the end of design thinking, we want to make sure that we are able to sell something too. So it's really important to include account directors. And the other thing that I would say is right there in the middle, it's crucially important to talk to clients and users. Jay, do you want to say anything about this slide and maybe some of our best engagements
Yeah,
with the three-legged stool?
yeah, I think you covered it. Really, what happens is a lot of times we're brought in by one of these groups. And really, where we found a lot of success is when we get representatives from all three circles. If it's skewed and we're only talking to product folks, a lot of times there are gaps or technology things that we're not aware of that we need insights from. And so I think to your point, it's really important that it is interdisciplinary and that all the stakeholders who are involved and partners understand they all need to participate in the process to get the maximum value out of design thinking.
Right. And when we think about the benefits of design thinking, you can really just pick any of the bullet points that you want. For me, the ones that I like that resonate are the last two. Better product requirements, much faster and more accurate estimates. Which of these bullets speaks out to you the most, Jay?
Yeah, I think what's really nice from a product perspective is a lot of the folks that we've talked to in product really want a vision that they can sell effectively to the customers. And some of the component parts of the framework really help solidify that vision and then give product folks a great talking points as to so that our customers understand the value that we're proposing to the marketplace. And I think that's super beneficial.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that can confuse people with design thinking is there's so many different flavors. So
Mhm.
one of the things that we did is we went out and we talked to IDEO, which is the really big consultancy out on the West Coast, Stanford Design School. We looked at IBM Design Thinking and Google Sprint, and we also talked to some people that we knew in industry that had launched design thinking at Texas Instruments, at Capital One, at Intuit, and we put all of those ingredients together. And what we discovered is they're all basically 90% the same. There's a few nuanced items. What we wanted to do is take the things that made sense to us and create a framework, not a process. Again, I'll get back into that. There's freedom in the framework, is what I like to say. And we'll show you that here in a moment. Just know that we put a lot of work into this. What I'm going to show you next is that major brands invest in design thinking, so it's good that you're here to learn today. Understand that these are big brands, really big. IBM, Johnson and Johnson, SAP. Just those three companies alone, almost 100,000 people have went through rigorous design thinking training. Intuit, all 8,000 employees have went through it. It's that important to them. They see design thinking as a differentiator for them. Now, design thinking is a really big term that can be really amorphous. And the question is, so what is design thinking? And of course, we have to answer a question with a question. Design thinking helps you to fundamentally answer the following question: how do we build better products? If I had to put it simple, we don't create innovations, we create innovators. So we're just trying to teach you to do innovative thinking. Now, we typically in our schools, we have people go through an exercise where we tell them to draw a vase. And the typical vase that they draw is, any type of like a long stem vase. Sometimes it has a crack in it.
Mhm.
But if you reframe the question and you take a step back, think about how we might experience flowers in a hotel. And I just want you to hang on that for a moment. Does it have to be a vase, right? Is there another way we can experience flowers in a hotel? Now, as crazy as this example sounds, it was an actual design challenge that was done not at just any hotel, but at a hotel in the Mojave Desert known as the Bellagio. So if you've ever been to Vegas, you might have seen a room at the Bellagio that looks like this. And if you look around, you can certainly see a vase, but if you think about a new way of experiencing flowers in a hotel in the Mojave Desert, you have floral designs, right? You have it in the metalwork there for the coffee table. You have a nice color palette. You do have a vase with flowers, kind of on the far right. You have a vase with no flowers. And it's not just that it's in the room, right? When you first walk into a hotel, you have this floral design that's above you as you go to registration. They have these little separator glass figurines throughout these glass walls. And so there's this floral design. As you walk through, maybe to go to the hotel, you have these really beautiful tile mosaics. Okay, again, experiencing flowers. And sometimes you don't have a floral design, you just have vines, right? So how cool is that? Then sometimes you have these like blown glass structures. Oh, and by the way, they have these floral designs as you walk through. So here's an example of a balloon. You can see a veranda. You can see lights on trees. You see different types of cacti. Oh, and this is not a photoshopped version. It looks like it. It's not. I took this photo years ago when I walked through there. Notice that they have the gazebo in the back. They've got bamboo. There's water going. They have tulips. They have this large garden that you can walk to. This is what this garden looks like in the 4th of July. The people are just hanging out, checking out the seasonal plants that you might find in the United States. There's fountains. Here's what it looks like in autumn. Here's what it looks like in Thanksgiving. Here's what it looks like in Christmas. Notice the Christmas trees, the lights, the balls, the reindeer. Let's go back to that hotel room. This is what the bathroom looks like. Notice all the floral designs. Again, empty vases, water droplets, mirrors. Guess what? It even has the smell of lavender. And here's what's really cool. At night, they have a projection light show that shows the floral patterns, right? And they even have people that are singing, almost like the muses from Greek mythology. And oh, by the way, you can gamble, and yes, you can hit 3 red roses to hit the jackpot. And again, it's how might we experience flowers in a hotel versus draw a vase. Remember, that was kind of the challenge that Jay and I like to throw out to get you to understand it's really about building better products, services, and experiences. And again, this is just going to hotel, right? If we take that design challenge, a new way of experiencing flowers in a hotel, we can kind of come up with some really cool experiences. And again, draw a vase versus a new way of experiencing flowers in a hotel. Your design challenge might be just create a better search results page. And as engineers, you might just, oh, I could do this, I could do this. I could use AI and machine learning and predictive analytics. Well, sure, but if you take a step back, maybe it's really about a better way to learn
Mhm.
about a topic, right? One is feature focused, the other is experience focused. Jay, any comments? I know I just drained through a bunch of slides. Any comments or reactions there?
I think, just going back to a lot of times when we're given a problem to solve, it's really easy to jump right into solutioning, right? When you say, okay, we need a container, we need to experience flowers, we go to those common response zones, as you like to say. Well, obviously, let's just put flowers in a vase of some sort, and that's your solution. But when you're trying to be innovative, that asking how might we and how might we experience flowers, we suddenly open the aperture. In this example, there's lots of ways that we can experience flowers in a hotel. It's that kind of thinking that makes design thinking so powerful.
Yeah, and the other example that we like to use, I like to call it the Jim Anderson example, right? So, Jim, have have you ever like seen a Jeep, rode in a Jeep, experienced a Jeep? Have you done that, Jim?
Yeah, yeah, I think I've seen
Can
a
you tell
Jeep
me
before.
can you tell me about some of the features of a Jeep that are cool?
Yeah, they got the winch on the front where hopefully you never have to use it in case you get stuck off roading.
You totally want Jurassic Park on us. That's awesome. Yeah, so you have, maybe a Hemi engine, rack and pinion steering, really big tires, right? Well, Jim, Jay and I are the experienced guys. So again, it's easy to fall back into that trap of features and I
Hmm.
kind of primed you and said,
Yeah.
"Hey Jim, blah blah blah. What are some cool features?" Jim, let me show you what Jay and I want to do with your features. We want to
I,
go
I,
off-roading.
I think that's Jim on the right,
That
but
might
I'm
be Jim on the right. That looks
Yeah.
like Jim.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
Make sure I wear my contacts that day.
yeah, so again, it's about feature focused, right? Versus experience focused. People want the features to enable the experience. Sometimes we forget about the experience. The experience becomes an afterthought, not a forethought.
Hmm.
Okay, and so that's what we're trying to do here. So sometimes it's just fun to go off-roading. One of the things with design thinking that you might have heard of is this concept of the double diamond. It comes from the British Design Council. And at a high level, the first diamond, you're expanding out a bunch of ideas, collecting them, and then you're bringing them down to a focal point. And it's kind of defining an opportunity. And then you can develop potential solutions with the second diamond and then deliver solutions that work. And one of the things that to think about with the first diamond is this is about understanding the opportunity. And with that, we need to understand people, we need to understand the question, we need to understand the current journey map. The second diamond, once we have alignment on the first diamond, the opportunity, then we can kind of start to build toward the solution. Jay, any comments here?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest difference with the framework is again super smart people, and again we teach a lot at SMU, so we get a lot of people from different disciplines. The biggest thing that the challenge we have with our students is to get them to stop and don't jump straight into solutioning, right? They forget that first diamond, and that's really where the magic happens because you open up to possibilities in that first diamond by understanding the pain points and the people you're solving for. If you just jump into solutioning, a lot of times what happens is you're coming from your own perspective, and that can be filled with assumptions and biases that can really limit the possibilities for you as you're trying to really come up with something cool.
Which again echoes back to why we would want to include product, tech, sales, and users so that we get all of those different perspectives. We're accounting for those biases. And then the other thing that we're trying to do is get out of the common response zone, open the aperture, explore a little bit more, look for that opportunity. And then once we have that alignment, which is another really important word, then we start to focus in on the solution. And when we look at the framework uh, that we developed, it looks like this. And I'm going to quickly walk you through this at a high level. And then what Jay and I will do is kind of go back and forth and do some bantering. So the first thing you have to do is frame the opportunity. And we'll talk about in a moment how it's important to frame it in a specific way. Again, it's not built around features, it's built around experiences. So we did the framing, draw a base versus reframing it, draw a new way of experiencing flowers in the hotel. It's not enough to frame the opportunity. You need to understand users and not just, your external users, even your internal users. If you forget a stakeholder, uh, stakeholder make stakeholders make or break every project, to be honest. So one of the things we like to do is get understandings of what our stakeholders need, how they're going to be able to support a solution, what gaps do they see. Once we have that, we look at the current state user experience, highlight gaps, opportunities, areas of interest. Then we brainstorm new ways of experiencing. And again, remember, most people just think of design thinking as being the people that put sticky notes on a wall and don't do anything. We did all of this other work before we even got to putting a single sticky note on a wall. The other thing is we kind of get that alignment that Jay was talking about a moment ago on understanding the opportunity, where the two diamonds come together. That's where we have alignment. This is the problem. Now we want to explore the solution. What is the impact that it's going to deliver? What's the value proposition? We call that a who, what, wow. Then we create prototypes or storyboards to visualize those top ideas. those top solutions that are solving for the key pain points or gaps. And then we validate those. We test those concepts with real users. So if you take a step back, this is how the double diamond fits in, right? So that's pretty cool, but it's a framework. And again, what I want you to understand about a framework is you can start anywhere in the framework. You can start at the beginning and go all the way from frame the opportunity to validate the users. It could be that you start with a new concept and then you realize, hey, we got to go back and revisit the journey map. You may think that because of a timeline or a budget, you've already got a prototype and you need to go back to understanding the user, right? So this is a flexible framework. There is freedom in the framework. Jay, any comments here?
No, I think you covered it really well in terms of understanding it. I think it's again about value. Um, One of the things as you were talking, I thought about when we were able to have a workshop with customers in the past. One of my favorite things that ever happened was we had a set of customers we had a workshop with. They had a bunch of ideas that we went through this framework. We presented them to the product manager's credit and that team. They were able to implement those customers' ideas. And when they came back the next year, they said, the reason we're back is because you listened to us, you put it into effect in your product, and you are helping us make money and solve problems. And they said, we're back for more. So if you do this, it really does create value for our products and our customers. That to me is the most exciting part of this whole framework, is it really has impact. And, Kurt said, he's looking for scrappy teams. If you're looking to be scrappy, this framework is exactly the type of framework that you want to consider.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people think this takes a long time. When you do some of these workshops, it can be as little as 2 hours. Imagine doing something that's 2 hours or 2 days versus grinding on it for 2 months or 6 months. So we're here to help. Let us know. We've got a lot of experience too. So just kind of look at all of the different product workshops, process workshops, customer engagements that we did. We kind of like leveled up our customer engagements, ironically, during COVID because we were able to use tools like Mural and Microsoft Teams to really engage with our customers from around the world, and that was a great experience. But also stakeholders too. So we have a lot of experience with this, and if we dig a little bit deeper behind the numbers, and we did this, uh, I think it was just yesterday, Jay. Um, we have over 1,000 internal employees that we've trained. Uh, we trained 2 weeks ago 63 interns in Bangalore, and they did case studies. They used the design thinking framework as the backbone for their 2-week design challenge as part of their onboarding process. When you take all these workshops that we've done, we've had a lot of external clients. So we've had travel agencies, airlines, hotels. We've had startups that we've worked with, and we started just doing the counting, and we came up with 357. And it's because we've been doing this a long time, to be honest with you, about 10 years. And then when you look across the broader portfolio and some new concepts, new ideas, about 60 different product teams, but also service teams are using us too. So customer care, customer support, call centers, sales, we talked about that. So a lot of different products and service teams across the broader portfolio. Now, Jay, this next couple of sections, I'm probably going to let you talk about because I think these are more Jay Schuh type slides. I'll pop in and move the slides along, but let's take a moment at how we typically work. And so, Jay, I'm going to have you go through this slide.
Sure. So one of the things that we discovered is a lot of times we all go in with the best of intentions. on how we're going to get things done. And throughout this process, we'll start, we'll plan, we'll build. There's all sorts of things we discover as we get into the products, and tech things or product things or customer requirements. And so we're always pivoting and trying to adjust as best we can as we're trying to deliver for our customer.
Yeah, and like look at the difference between plan and build. Kind of the experience that we've seen is, oh my God, we got funding, right? So talk about that for like the moment that it really becomes real, Jay, moving from a plan to a build phase.
Oh, yeah. I mean, once you get a good idea, you're like, yes, we've got a plan. And then, as you can see in that middle section, like, whoa, we did not know this. And that's why there's a lot of movement right in the middle, because then it's all these requirements, all these things. Whoa, this, we didn't expect this. We didn't allocate the hours for this. There's all those things that happen. And then you're just radically trying to get to the end as close as possible to meet expectations for our customers.
And this is no different for, remodeling your home.
Yeah.
Like you knock out a wall and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, there's pipe behind that wall. If I would have known that before, I wouldn't have done this. I have to pivot. So it's the same way with really just about any creative problem that you're trying to solve, whether it's with a process, with a product, with a construction project, an animation project, anything. So if this is how products fail, design thinking can help us out here. So Jay, I'll let you talk about this. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, and notice that we purposely, if you look at kind of those scribbles during the plan phase, it represents kind of that double diamond, right? If you're doing your due diligence, if you're being scrappy, if you're really getting as much of the relevant information as you can, and that goes back to being multidisciplinary. A lot of times, what happens in the middle of that project is you didn't have an opportunity to talk to some of the internal stakeholders that kind of had some of that pivotal information you needed to consider. That's why it's so important to get everybody in the room and be go along with this framework as you're trying to do it. If you do that right, there's a lot of things that you all get alignment on and are able to say, yes, this is what we're going to do. So when you're validating with real folks, customers and internal folks, when you're going into build, there's a lot less movement during the build phase because you've really considered a lot of things you need to consider from a variable perspective.
Yeah, and it's not just kind of this bow tie like example where design thinking is only used up front in the planning phase. That's where, it's maybe at its strongest. It's really more like a diamond necklace. It's just some of the diamonds might be smaller in a build phase and even smaller in a run phase. So think of it as a diamond necklace, but some of the diamonds are a little bit bigger in the plan phase. That's kind of the sweet spot. Next slide is also for you, Jay. I like it because you came up with it.
Well, really what happens is if we kind of take a look at this, and again, being that scrappy, having that scrappy mindset, it's all about failing quickly. In projects, in creative, whether it's a garage thing you're working on, your backyard, as Brian said earlier, any kind of creative project, the more rapidly you can experiment at the beginning and learn what's working and what isn't working, you figure that out really quick. And then once you have those kind of known variables, then what happens is, you can really move forward. It's when you don't do that upfront due diligence, kind of really understand the problem you're trying to solve and who you're trying to solve it for, then that's where you run the risk of getting close to pushing something out and then finding those things later. And that's when, at the end of a build phase, if you found out that you're going north when you should be going southeast, that can really create some interesting conversations that you might not want to have with your internal and external stakeholders.
Yeah, when I look at that risk
Yeah.
axis there, risk equals stress. I don't want
Yes.
stress.
Absolutely.
So the next slide is also a J Schuh slide. Take it away, sir.
All right. So this truly is an accelerator, right? It allows for less rework and more alignment. You know, Brian, one of the stories, and again, one of our favorite stories that I remember when you and I were launching design strategy at Sabre is we were working with a product manager, and they had kind of been working on some tough problems for about 18 months. And then at the end, we spent like, I think it was like 3 days with them. And at the end of those 3 days, it was like a half day, full day, half day is typically what Brian and I did during that time. She came to us and she said, "Guys, I have one huge regret." And we're like, "Oh, okay. What's the regret?" And she goes, "I should have gotten together with you guys 18 months ago." And we're like, yeah, but at least now now you have this information that moving forward, you can really accelerate the value that you're creating, not only for your product, but really help our customers get the value more from our products faster.
All right, and then I do remember that story, Jay. That was kind of a real nice pat on the back, and she was almost in tears too.
Oh
That
yeah.
product
Yeah.
manager was in tears, but also excited. She had a direction. She's ready to move forward, and I think she just needed that product vision that Jay was talking about earlier. I want to do a framework walkthrough. So just as a gentle reminder, this is a primer. So this is pretty high level. Now I want to break down each level, and then I'll have Jay provide some color commentary. So the first thing is framing the opportunity. So we want to clearly define it. And it's really important to do that, mainly because it's the single most important factor of success. Plus, if you're addressing the wrong thing, you're not giving people what they want, and really more importantly, what they need. So one of the tools that we like to do to frame the opportunity, and I'll let you kind of talk about this, Jay, here in a moment. So we want to have the unique needs of an individual that we're addressing. We want to focus on a specific business or user opportunity, and we need to measure it in an exact way. And if you take these three things together, we call it a who, what, wow. Jay, talk about how powerful this very simple construct is.
Oh my gosh. So the who, what, wow is probably one of the most difficult things about the framework because it requires a good understanding of all those things you mentioned. But once you spend the effort to come up with a really compelling who, what, and wow statement, then at the end of it, if you do it right, your customers and internal stakeholders are going to say, "Sign me up." Because what's happened is you've gotten to the core of the pain points and the needs that they have been looking for. And it's very succinct and to the point, and it exactly addresses their pain. And they want to have more conversation. So, from a sales perspective or a product perspective, and even a dev and design perspective, this is a great way to align a team and saying this is the vision we're creating for our customer and move forward. So one of the most powerful things that I think exists within the framework because of the value and opportunities it represents.
Yeah, the other thing that I would mention there, it's an initial framing.
Yes.
So you're going to go back, it's going to change. You may find out you're not going in the right direction. So, a couple of tools that we use, we have a product definition worksheet. We've used this at Sabre, we've used this with our students. We give them this, it kind of resembles the Google two pager. It looks a lot like a lean product canvas with a few additional um, items to fill out. But we ask the teams, hey, spend maybe 60 to 90 minutes. Here are some of the things that you will find in our project definition worksheet. We should be able to synthesize all of this, though, and create kind of a high level elevator pitch that we call a 2-minute readout. Our project is called fill in the blank. It's kind of like this metaphor, and you might think Airbnb for, Uber for. And again, we start to get into the who, what, wow. This group uses it. That's the who. Currently, they struggle. That's the what. In a perfect world, they would be able to do this really cool thing, and it would be awesome because of this wow. So in a perfect world, they'd be able to do wow. It'd be awesome because blah, 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 blah. Sign me up, just like Jay said. We have a series of online toolkits that are available. That's the way we scale things here. And I think it's really important to, when we talk about scaling things, to have an online repository. The next thing I'm going to talk about in stage two, it's understanding the users. How do they work? What do they need? And uh, really, to learn anything meaningful about people, you need to talk to them and observe them, preferably in their natural environment. That's because the best data comes from the person performing the task, not their boss, not the executive, but the person actually doing the work. And again, I had mentioned before that stakeholders can make or break every project. So one of the things that Jay and I do early on is we try to build out a stakeholder map. That way we can kind of get an understanding of the ecosystem. And a stakeholder map also identifies relationships. If you'll notice the arrows there, they look a little bit different. That's kind of what you would call the stakeholders' relationship status. So, Jay, do you want to talk about the arrows for a moment?
Well, yeah, I'm still seeing the 2-minute readout on my side, so I don't know if maybe we're having a delay.
Okay. We'll talk about the arrows on
Yeah,
stakeholder map. So,
so
solid, dashed.
yeah, if maybe it's on my side and I'm not seeing the slides advance, but if you're looking at a stakeholder map, what you're going to be looking at is we have various arrows that represents the strength of communication among the different stakeholders. And a lot of times we'll be able to annotate those arrows and understand why is this communication strong or weak or non-existent. And what happens is when you have a map where you understand how people are communicating with each other, a lot of times that can give you indicators that if there is some weak points in the ecosystem, it gives you an opportunity for discussion on how to further improve those communications, get alignments, and ultimately move faster, right, to meet the needs of the product and the customers you're trying to develop
Yeah,
for.
the other cool thing is that we can develop a communication plan. So this type of person wants to be created this frequently. This type of person, they're more of an influencer. So we looked at interest versus influence. Some people we keep informed. Some people we keep satisfied. It really just depends upon where they fall in the ecosystem. You don't want to leave out a stakeholder. As soon as you leave out a stakeholder, if they get really angry, they sabotage all of your work. That's never happened to anybody on this call, but the stakeholder map's important. Stakeholders make or break every project. It gives you an opportunity to kind of look, take a step back. Who can I work with to help solve this problem? One of the
Hey,
other things that we do is an empathy map. Yeah, Jay, go ahead.
oh, I just want to make sure, Jim, are the slides advancing for you?
Yep, they're advancing. Occasionally, some of the users tonight have not seen them advance, but it's currently on the empathy map. So
Okay, so I'm still stuck for whatever reason on 2-minute readout, so I'm flying blind, Brian, just to give you a heads up.
So Jay,
Oh,
if
that's
you want
cool.
to just drop off and join back in, you'll be able to sync up. You might want to do
Okay,
that.
Okay,
I will
cool.
try to do that.
Okay.
So an empathy map, it's an activity to understand the internal pressure that a person is being put under while they're performing a specific task. And so here you can see that maybe it is a traveler and maybe they're trying to book travel. What do they say, think, feel, or do while they're experiencing trying to shop for travel? And it's really important because let's say you've had a lot of interviews and several people on your team have won out and they've interviewed and observed people. This is a really great way to synthesize a lot of data. Well, when you went out for your interview and when you went out for your observation, what do the user say, think, feel, or do? Feeling is important, though. When somebody says they feel frustrated, they need to answer why. So that's something that we do ask people to fill out. So why'd you feel that way? You get a little bit more information from there. The other thing that we try to do is get to what we call design drivers. And really, what are the insights that are most important? And some of those may translate into design themes. In other words, what do we need to keep top of mind before we do that next version of the software, that next version of the product? The other thing that could come out is, where are we making assumptions? Where do we need to do some additional research? Where might we have a blind spot? Again, remember we said it's a flexible framework. We may need to go back and revisit how we framed the opportunity, that initial who, what, wow. The other thing that we can do with the empathy map, let's say that we've went out, we've interviewed, observed, and surveyed users, we've synthesized that data onto an empathy map, we can build a user persona. So this is a research-based profile. It's really to align your team. And there's a lot of benefits. One of the things I like to say is know the nuance. So for example, we like to throw out business traveler, right? Well, there's a lot of business travelers. There's an infrequent business traveler. There is a frequent business traveler. There is a VIP business traveler. There is a travel arranger. So somebody that arranges travel for frequent travelers and VIP travelers. All of those personas are different. They have different drivers, different pain points, different motivations, different goals. By going out and talking to those different respective user groups, we can then have the insights that we need to maybe build future state solutions for them. At this point, we're just getting insights. Here's kind of our flavor of a persona. There's a header that has some metrics about the person. Then we have the data and the design drivers, the things to keep top of mind for this person, some user insights, so responsibilities, pain points, context, motivations, and goals. And again, this is just what we saw when we were talking to them and observing to synthesize the data. One of the cool things that we can do is we can validate these very quickly with the product team, with the sales team, with real users. Did we get this right? Maybe the design driver, is it in the right order? What's the thing that's most important to you? Again, knowing the nuance helps us to craft a better future state solution. It also helps us to what I like to call major in the majors. Step 3 in the design thinking process is exploring ideas and options. It's a little bit of a Texas two-step. The first thing that we do is we map the current state experience and we highlight pain points and gaps. Then the second step is, once we've done that, we start to do brainstorming. And that's what most people think design thinking is. It's just, let's do some brainstorming. Let's put sticky notes on the wall. Well, we have to do all this other stuff first to really be smart when we're brainstorming, because our future state solutions should solve current state pain points and gaps. And there should be benefits associated with that. We shouldn't just be spinning our wheels, having a good time. We should be very, very intentional. So again, we fall back into the product centric mindset here. So a lot of people start to solution here. This isn't about solutioning. This is really about problem identification. So we need to maintain our user-centric mindset. So rather than, and again, I'll take travel as an example. This is kind of the traveler's journey map. They prepare, they shop, book, plan, pack, travel. They search for local activities. They enjoy their destination, and they might come back, right? Hopefully they do. I hope they come back, Jim, because that cat, I can't decide if it's angry or happy. It looks a little bipolar with those eyes.
It's trying to get into the suitcase to go on the journey.
Get in the suitcase to go on the journey. So when we talk about breaking down the whole experience, we're talking about a journey map. And so there's different stages, there's a list of activities, and then we start to identify what are pain points along the way, right? And we have to get really intentional here. Now, notice we say tasks or activity. We're not saying step by step, right? So it's high level tasks, high level activities. There's a lot of benefits to doing a journey map, and you can see here what you see on the right. It's an example of what we did for a customer workshop. It breaks everything into a logical order. You can have really good conversations that are deep, and it's super, super concentrated. But you can see, Jim and everyone, that there is a lot of insights on this wall. Well, sometimes a really nice way to major in the majors is to create what we call need statements. So this is an activity for you to, break it down into what specifically does this person need for future product development. So it's a really powerful tool. So let's say, here's an example. Jen, the hotel agent, sees packages that arrive today so she can tell customers what to expect. We call this a who, what, why. Now, it's really easy to fall back into the trap that Jen, the hotel agent, needs to see a dashboard of packages arriving today so that she can meet the KPIs of her product manager. And again, or the property manager. The issue with that is the solution is built into the what. And really, it's what is she trying to solve and why. So again, we're focused on the user, not the solution. That's about to come. We want to still keep the problem area open and big enough that maybe it's a dashboard, maybe it's a text message, maybe it's an email, right? Maybe it's a person, just taping a note to their door. Maybe it's just a voicemail, right? So again, we call this a who, what, why, a user need statement. A lot of benefits to it. Big idea vignettes. This is where we move from we've identified all the pain points or user needs. We truly start to do brainstorming, and it should be impactful ideas, big ideas. Again, it's high level here, and a big idea is broad, conceptual, user focused. It's not features. Again, we're trying to avoid that. Big ideas are more experience focused. Features are discrete and tactical. Predict the future from the past is a big idea. A chart with lines that shows predictions. Well, we're getting pretty specific there. We like to do it this way: a sketch, a headline, and a caption. The headline we do in all caps. The caption, we usually have it smaller, and you can see it's mixed script there. And again, a security concierge that serves up permissions and admins settings that you need, right? And it's almost like somebody's delivering pizza, right? But we're not literally saying specifically what you do. Once you have all of those big ideas on the board, we have a prioritization grid, and a lot of that is meant to help us major in the majors. No-brainers or low-hanging fruit, quick wins, stuff you should probably already be doing. Differentiators are kind of hard for the team. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it has a really high impact to the user. It's ways you beat the snot out of the competition. Performance payoffs that makes our users better, faster, more efficient. It has a limited shelf life though. Pretty soon it becomes a basic expectation. Unwise ideas are where you're pushing the envelope. It's really interesting as a developer or a product manager to listen to the discussions of customers. Are they saying, is this a differentiator or performance payoffs? You kind of really can get into the head of the customer if you just listen. That's why it's important to have them in the workshop. So we've got the big ideas, we've prioritized them on the board. That's awesome. Now we need to further describe each of the ideas. And let's say that we've got 4 or 5 of those. We're starting to move into like closing out that first diamond. Jim, do we have any questions at this point?
Yes, we do have one from Ramji.
Okay.
And it's thinking about, we're having the primer right now, getting the first what the heck is this design thinking stuff, and what's a way for participants, practitioners, or at least try and bring this into maybe a project that they're kicking off, or a project that they're stalled on. How would you recommend that people move forward after this?
So yeah, if they're at Sabre, it's really just give me or Jay a phone call, set up some time with their manager, and we can talk to them. I think one of the keys for someone maybe outside of Sabre, even inside of Sabre, is to have advocates and a success story.
Mm-hmm.
So what you might want to do is practice this on a small project, get some successes under your belt, and then when the right project comes up, say, hey, here's what we did for a situation where we were stuck.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to get unstuck using some of these tools. Let's kind of do it a little bit on a bigger scale. So you get a success story and you upsell it,
Okay.
I
And
think
then
is what I'm trying to say here. We pilot tested stuff for a while, Jim,
yep.
got those success stories, and then we did, I'll call it a road show. Okay. Yeah. Another
Well,
question. Go ahead.
just to follow up on that one, so say for outside of Sabre joiners that maybe they don't have experienced design thinkers that they can lean on to get that initial wins. Where were obviously they could go to
Yeah. So,
SMU to learn some design thinking, but
well, yeah, you
any
could
other
do
places?
that at Google. There's rework.google.com. It's a really good resource that has toolkits that you can look at and activities, and you can practice. So that's kind of a no nonsense place to look. You could always contact myself and Jay online. We'll help you, if we have time. That'll be on our own time. If you have a user research team or a usability team,
Yeah.
they're really good at talking to people and facilitating usability sessions and workshops. Um, they just need to get familiar with some of these tools. Some of them they already do, like interviews and surveys. So you might leverage some of those online resources. There's a lot of videos online, but if you have a user research or usability team, it's kind of a natural fit also.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
So and while we were talking, are you ready for another question?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah. One more came in while we were talking. This one's from Maresh. Do you get into a situation where you
Okay.
may spend time into pursuing and lose the opportunity? So, maybe there's a short time frame, or a sliding time frame on the opportunity, and you just keep designing.
This is this is so funny. Um, People think that this takes a long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This does not take a long time. The whole goal of this is for it to be rapid and directional and to get feedback. Sometimes our prototypes are just paper prototypes,
Mm-hmm.
literally sketches. Did we get this right? Are we going in the right direction? With some of the mid-fidelity prototyping tools like Figma, uh, if you have a library developed, you can turn a Figma prototype in a week and do usability testing the following week.
Hmm.
So to say that this takes a long time, it doesn't. And do you have designers that are these pixel perfect designers? Yes. For doing design thinking, especially upfront design thinking, that is not what we need. What we need is like super fast designers that are building POCs. It is a different mindset. You can run into that. If you're running into that, uh, what I would do with a designer like that is give them a due date. This is due in 1 week, and they can get it done in a week. And they'll tell you it won't be pixel perfect. You'll say, fine, I just want some prototype validation. And that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
But none of this takes long. We had a really big project, Jim, where we did a design thinking workshop. The following week, the prototype was built. The week after that, we did prototype validation. Then we updated it. We knew we were going in the right direction. Then we went to build.
Wow.
So like 3 weeks.
Yeah, that sounds
All right. So
sounds
I'm going
good.
to, well, yeah, it's very common for us. Yeah. This is where the two diamonds come together. It's kind of where we revisit the who, what, wow. And again, when we're defining a new concept, it's super essential because it needs to resonate with users, stakeholders, the product team, and executives. That gives the product vision. It explains the value. It drives alignment. And more importantly, with executives, it gives you what every project wants: money, people, and time, right? Those are the three issues with every project. If you can explain the kind of the customer value proposition, it aligns the team. So we go back to the anatomy of a who, what, wow. Who are your users? What is the user need you're meeting? You can turn that into a project goal. How do you measure success? What's the KPI? And I'm just going to break it down for you with a pretty famous example from American history, or actually the one I use from American history is by the end of this decade, we will send an astronaut to the moon and safely return them to Earth. The who is the astronaut. The what is send them to the moon. The wow is safely return them to Earth. We could always hit the moon, people. We could hit the moon for many, many years, but could we bring that person safely home to Earth? With IBM Bluemix, this is from a few years ago, it should take no more than 30 minutes. That's the wow for a developer to build and run an app using IBM and third-party APIs. This is from like 2015. It's probably no more than 10 minutes now, right? That's the wow. It's like, oh, I want to learn more. This is from 2014, right? The hardest part on this is the wow. And you really need to kind of push that. But if you have that as a really strong elevator pitch, the executive is going to say, okay, great. Do you have proof points? Right? That's the next thing.
Hmm.
So our proof points would be experiments that we would run. Typically with an experiment, we need to create a prototype. So this is where we visualize the ideas that we talked about in the future state journey map. We had all those big ideas. We visualize those. We can visualize those. We visualize those because it helps you to see the ideas, refine those concepts, and experiment quickly. Business requirements, especially handwritten ones, can be easily misinterpreted. Once you see it, you can react to it.
Hmm.
So here's an example of Starbucks. Here's a storyboard on the left. People can react to that. Here's their app on the right, done as a Figma prototype BIM by our design team. They did this in 2 hours. Okay, so if somebody tells me they can't
Wow.
do something quickly in Figma, they're lying. That's what I'll tell you. They are lying. We like to do sketches in our design thinking workshops, and it's a natural type of prototype. Paper prototype, low fidelity, which would be Figma, high fidelity would be HTML, CSS, JSON. So
Hmm.
some of the work that front end developers do. So we would work with people that can do that. We have people on staff that do that. But what we like to say in the design thinking workshops is let's use sketches and whiteboarding because low fidelity tools drive high fidelity ideas. Designers start with this. They kind of live in this area. They can react to it. Customers can react to it. One of the things that Jay and I teach is the difference between criticism and critiquing. Nobody likes criticism because it's usually negative, it's vague, it seems like a personal attack, it's very abrasive,
Hmm.
right? It's over the top. I hate this. What were you thinking, Jim? You should rethink your life choices, right? This design sucks, right? Nothing about that was good. A critique is what is your design intent? Jim, can you tell me what you're trying to solve here? I like this, Jim. I like this. what design patterns were you looking at here? Why did you choose this one? How do
Mm-hmm.
you think the user will react to this? It's very collaborative. Here's a tool for you to use. I like, I wonder. I like this, I like this. I wonder how people will react to this. And again, we can update a storyboard or prototype quickly with our own teammates using critiquing like, I wonder. It's not enough to do that. We'll quickly prototype it. We can use paper prototyping or something like Figma, and we want to validate it with real users. Prototype validation lets you know what's working, what's not working, and you can optimize how people are working and evaluate their responses. Why do we validate? To test our assumptions, refine our prototypes, do those experiments, learn, fail fast, fail fast, fail fast, like Jay was talking earlier. We want to validate with users, not buyers, so I'm reinforcing this. So here's Christina, a travel agent. Look at her motivations and pain points. I'm not going to drain this slide. You guys have probably already read the whole thing by now. The
Mm-hmm.
Roberto, the IT buyer, his motivations are about scaling and lower training costs. His pain points are about customization. Christina just wants to get travelers through the line and get them boarded on the plane. There's an interesting curve when you're doing 5 to 6 users per group will find the vast majority of issues with your prototype. And I used to do usability testing for a number of years, Jim, and it's totally true. But it's per user group. So if you have agents, you also have managers. So you might have to do a round with agents, a round with managers. That's 12.
Mm-hmm.
Or with business travelers, VIP, frequent flyers, infrequent flyers. So I'm going to talk about lenses of design thinking, and then I'll wrap up with some questions with Jay. So we kind of walk through the entire framework. Here's
Yep.
the cool part. I think that makes a lot of sense to people. So we have evolutionary innovation with a product, version 1 to version 2. So maybe that's like downloading the latest update for Netflix, right? That's really evolutionary innovation. We can also do it for revolutionary innovation. Let's get a new idea, run through this, let's build a new product. So imagine back in the day, you're switching from BlackBerry to iPhone. Imagine you're switching from an electric car to a gas-powered car. Imagine a robot car. You don't even have to have, driving Miss Daisy. So that's with a product. We can do the same thing with service design. So a customer wants to call in to have a touchless experience and maybe have something delivered at their house. So maybe they use the call center, maybe they talk to a robot, maybe they use a kiosk. We can do the same thing using this framework. But Jim, it doesn't end there. We can take a current business model and we can have a new and improved one. So imagine back in the day, we moved from a hotel, right, to Airbnb or VRBO, right? That's all they did was change the business model,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't own property, they don't own a car. All that they changed was the business model, and that's a big deal. So I want to talk about lessons learned and myth busting. I can't think we drained through a few more. We just have a couple of more slides, Jim.
All right.
Jay, are you back on the line?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. I'm back.
Okay. How do you scale design thinking, Jay?
Yeah. So this was actually Brian and I attended. We got officially trained as design thinking facilitators at IDEO, and I actually asked the IDEO folks this question, and they really gave me a non-answer. What as you were going through, and I was thinking back to what we did to bring design thinking to Sabre, we really, ate our own cuisine by going through the design thinking framework to develop the framework. I mean, we really did meta because we were trying to understand who are the folks at Sabre, what are some of the pain points they're having, how can we develop a design thinking program that really is truly meeting the needs of the folks at Sabre, not an IBM or not a Stanford D School version, a version that meets the needs of Sabre, that Sabre folks could resonate. So I think that's one of the things you really have to do is just don't, it's not cookie cutter. Just don't take somebody else's. You have to understand your company, your culture, and then really truly dig in deep and understand who you're developing it for. Once you do that, then these are some of the bullet points that we did. You have to get executive sponsorship for it, because if the boss's boss isn't about it, then that's going to be really hard to make happen. Small teams, you develop small teams of folks that know what they're doing, and that you can ramp those up with the train the trainer. Definitely provide toolkits, posters, worksheets, videos that people can re-reference if they forget some things. Success stories, man. Success stories are probably one of the biggest insights and takeaway that Brian and I got when we were going through this is, that, and then use short videos for those as well. How do you handle resistance? Gosh, did we get a lot of resistance initially when we were trying to scale this up. But what happened is we had allies. Ramji was actually one of our allies, and he was all about it, which I love that he's on the call today. And we worked with him, and we were able to get those opportunities where we could create internal success stories that helped us handle the resistance, because people that were kind of resistant would get third-party testimonials from the folks that we had helped.
Yep.
And that was huge in helping getting more folks to level up. We're a global company at Sabre, so working across time zones and schedules can be challenging, but using different tools like Mural and Teams really helps us achieve that. It's always going to be somewhat of a challenge, but having that understanding that having everybody in the room really is critical, that's something that really helps make things happen.
Talk a little bit about energy, Jay. How you got to maintain energy in the workshop.
Yeah. That's a hard. Jim knows that's hard for me, right? It's coffee, right? Coffee is the manna, right? Come down from the cloud. But no, it's about breaks, icebreakers. Some people might think icebreakers are a little silly, but it really helps you get to know the other folks in the room. It loosens people up. And when you do that, your ideas flow a lot better. When you feel like you're all in this together, it's about coming up and solving problems in a really cool and creative way and quickly, right? That's the thing. So a lot of times these teams were trying to figure these things out, sometimes for weeks or months even. And then after 3 days, again, people were like, this is awesome, because we've been working so hard and so long to get here, and really, getting that is just invaluable.
Hey man, what's after design thinking, Jay?
Yeah. So those prototypes are huge. Getting those storyboards, getting those initial drawings. One of the slides that we say in design thinking is that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Prototypes really help people understand what you are trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, and where you're going. So it's really fast on helping getting feedback from folks that weren't in the workshops. And then they understand, once they see it, then they're a lot more open to investing more time, energy, and helping get that funding that you were talking about earlier, Brian.
Hey, Jim, who are you going to call? Mythbusters.
All right.
Jay, take it away.
All right. So one of the common myths we have in design thinking is, oh my gosh, that takes too long. This kills me, Brian. I gotta say, we'll work with teams sometimes, and people will say, oh no, you're asking for 3 hours and we only got 2 hours. I'm like, you guys have been struggling with this for like months, and you can't give me another hour.
18 months,
yeah,
16 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse.
So 3 hours is not a long time if at the end of it, you really get a lot of alignment, visioning, road mapping, all those great fruits from the trees and everything that you're planning, that's not a long time. This is when we
Common
can,
myth. This one pisses me off.
yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest with you.
A lot of people will see someone like Brian and I do a workshop and they'll go, yeah, that's easy, man. Jay just got up there, talked a little bit, ran us through the exercises. Brian pointed to some posters and we put some sticky notes. That's cake, man. That, how hard is that to put sticky notes on a piece of paper? It's deceivingly difficult. I mean, facilitation is not the same as participation. It's not so difficult you can't learn it, but you do need to spend time thinking through and time boxing and understanding how to manage people in the room. So there's an art to it. And that's why you really want to, as I always say, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, and some people don't want us in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
happened before. Great.
Yeah.
Now facilitate it. Or, okay, here's a hidden agenda. Why are they acting that way? So we kind of have to read micro expressions and deal with hidden agendas. Myth
Yeah.
number 3. Take it away, Jay.
Yeah. The myth is people want design thinking. First of all, people a lot of times don't want what they don't understand. The design and design thinking throws people. They think, oh, you need to be a designer to use design thinking. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Design thinking is a problem-solving framework. And to be quite honest, some of the most creative, fantastic problem solvers that Brian and I have worked from come from dev and product. You're in there and they're going, wow, this is awesome. And it's the people who think, like when we're doing our quick sketches and trying to come up with some prototypes, they tell us, well, I can't draw, so I don't know what I'm doing. Those are the folks that oftentimes come up with the greatest possibilities and the greatest solutions. And they're the one telling us I can't draw. But after listening and just working through that, getting out of their comfort zone, right, they're able to come up with those ideas that matched with the other designers. We come up with some fantastic possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If the facilitation one was your thorn in your side, this is the one that gets me, Brian. A lot of times, and we Brian and I have had this experience too in class. A lot of times we will get older, mature students who come in, don't know what design thinking is, have marketing, advertising backgrounds. They think, if you're armed with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So sometimes people will come in with these really strong biases, and marketing and advertising folks are really trained to come up with solutions really, really fast. So they jump right into solutioning and, thinking, oh, I know the answer. I did this poster once and that was the solution. So let's just do a poster, right? Really? How about we talk about who we're solving for? How about we understand who that we're trying to get the solution for is not you? And that's that second bullet. You are not the user. You are not the user. You are not the user. You may be an expert in your field and you absolutely understand what you're doing, but you are not the user. And you have to get out, right? One of the other slides that Brian has is to step into somebody else's shoes. You have to take your shoes off. And that's really what empathy is all about, is stepping in their shoes, understanding their environment, what they're trying to solve. And the better you do it, the better solutions you're going to come up with. That last bullet point is also something that's parity, right? Coming up with the competition. Let's just do what the competition does. We've said this a lot of times. If you're here and the competition's here and you say, let's just meet the competition, then you're leveling up. Well, the competition doesn't stay in place. The competition's growing here. So you're always playing catch up. So what this framework allows us to do is, if you're here and the competition's here, if you come up with a really cool, innovative solution by totally understanding the pain points, you can bump here. And then all of a sudden the competition is going, whoa, what just happened? How did they do that? And it's because they spent the time to truly understand the pain. And one thing we all know as human beings, We will pay a lot of money if you can take away pain. And if there's a lot of pain, we'll pay a lot of money to get rid of that pain.
And Jim, I hate to do this. Jay has one more slide. You ready, Jay?
Sure. There we go. So probably one of the best ways, if you're interested in connecting with Brian or myself, is LinkedIn. Brian and I are there. I know Jim has posted a lot of stuff there. I'm dyslexic, so email is absolutely not the best way to reach out to me, especially my personal email. But LinkedIn is. I'll pay attention to that. Connect with Brian and I. We're always posting, especially I'm really into emerging technologies, AI, machine learning, AR, VR. So I'm looking at those. But and Brian is probably one of the most connected people I know in the world in terms of user experience and design thinking and design strategy.
There you go, Jim. We went through 102 slides.
And we ended at 5:55, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Not bad.
I'm going to
Not
stop
bad.
sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Not bad. I know.
And we'll officially enter the Q&A. There's a couple questions and answers, and there may be some more coming as we go through this. From Ramji, is Pop still available? I'm not sure what, but big P, small.
Yeah.
O,
So
big
yeah,
P.
Pop. Yeah, it's by Marvel, not Marvel Comics, but it's an app, and so you can take pictures of paper prototypes,
Yeah.
and yeah, Pop is prototyping on paper and create hot links, so it
Hmm.
looks like your sketches are going through a flow, and you can go back and forth.
Okay.
It is still available. Yeah,
All right.
cool tool.
So when you're on the facilitator box, and Jay was talking about how it looks pretty easy to be a facilitator, which if you haven't done it before, maybe it probably looks easy. But if some facilitation and it doesn't go very well, is there ways that they can learn how to become a better facilitator? How did you guys go about
Jay,
learning it
take that
besides
one.
just trying it?
Yeah. So one of my favorite sayings is, how do you eat an elephant, right, Jim? And it's one bite at a time. So one of the biggest things that I think is, especially overachievers or amazing smart people, want to do everything right away, quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice is, take something like an empathy map exercise and get some trusted friends in a room and just say, hey, listen, on a lunch and learn or something like this, I want to practice my facilitation. And you take one exercise and you just kind of go through that particular method from our framework. And then you get feedback at the end. People say, well, how do you think this went? How long did it take? How long did I time box this for? Did I think it was going to take this long? And you can do it online. You can do it in person. Practice that, and you'll discover, oh yeah, and just get that feedback.
Yeah,
That's
Jay. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Douglas Ferguson's group.
oh yeah, voltage control. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Voltage is also a place they offer facilitation certification. So if you're really into learning how to be a facilitator, Douglas's group and Voltage Control actually has certification courses that you can take to learn how to become a professional.
Yeah, they do. They also do webinars and they're based out of Austin. Really great people. I've spoke at their conference. Jay has spoke at their conference. Jay's part of their community of practice. I think sits on a board or something.
Yeah,
that's a really great group. There's some short videos at nielsennormangroup.com that gives tips and tricks on how to be a facilitator. One of the things that we did as part of scaling up, so we have a practitioner's boot camp.
Yep.
Then we have a train the trainer boot camp.
All right.
We also have dojos. So these are online dojos where people can practice, like Jay was talking about.
And Brian, I'll be right back here.
Okay. So Jay's abandoning me
Yeah.
to, answer all the questions, Jim. But
Checking
that's okay because I think we only have 1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. But
Or so.
podcasts on design thinking.
There's a lot of them. There's one called Dollars to Donuts.
Yep.
It's on research and design thinking. That's one of my favorite, Dollars to Donuts. And then there's the one out of IDEO. IDEO is really good. It focuses mainly on facilitation, and they do more like manufacturing-based product design.
All right.
Yeah, Facilitator's Guide. Yeah, Sam Kainer.
Nice.
That's a good one. Train the Trainer. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Oh yeah,
Waiting for people.
Luma Institute. Yeah, Luma Institute has a podcast too.
Unlocking
Yeah,
magic.
there's a lot of
facilitation.
stuff out here. Jay will give you all these.
Holy
So
cow.
take screenshots.
Facilitator and trainer's toolkit. So
It looks like he's having his own Amazon. Jim.
this is like the design
Oh, yeah,
thinking
that's
for
a good
creating
one.
and development. All right.
Yeah, Laura Fletcher, solid.
Those are
So that's for the leaders or readers, right? On this. So if you're
Yeah.
into those things called books that don't require batteries,
yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah,
And Jim, I
Trey-
can send you that list. So
Hey,
you
Trey
Brian.
had a
Hey, Brian, what about your book? You've written a book on design thinking, haven't you?
yeah. Where's that, Jay? Damn.
Uh-huh.
He's
Oh,
looking.
here it is.
I wonder who illustrated that book. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
of
I don't
the
know.
person's
You
name.
got some wacky dude to illustrate
Illustrated
the
by
cover.
Jay Schuh. Okay.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah.
All right. There's a question that I like. It's a non-design thinking question. I like to ask all of our speakers. It's kind of a question because the speakers tend to be mature individuals. But if you could go back in time to talk to your 20-year-old self, is there any advice that current day Brian or Jay would give to their younger selves?
Gee, if I only had like a 20-ish year old son, yes, I would say respect your elders, which is what I said today. The old man knows a little bit more than you might imagine. For me, I guess, it's, take the time to learn your craft, whatever it is, and, go deep, take a few risks too, because, you should shoot for the moon, and if you go past it, go for the stars, right? But you do have to, aim high. If we aim low, we tend to shoot ourselves in the foot. So aim high.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
my thing that I just saw this on the slide is, and Brian and I actually talk about this in our portfolio class, is compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and you're either paying it or earning it. And I think that also is true for our learning, right? Investing time in understanding what is going to create value for people in terms of skills and knowledge, that is also a compound interest effect, because what happens is people want you on their team. They want you to be able to help them solve those problems. So investing in yourself more. When I was younger, I think I could have had even an additional compound interest. I'm trying to make up for it, with my library behind me. But that's I think invest in yourself and believe in yourself more. I think out of imposter syndrome and fear, sometimes we don't believe in ourselves enough to really, as Brian said, take some risk and just go for it. So
that's I think if you could, definitely good advice. You could package that for all the 20-year-olds and redistribute it. They'd say, "Get out of here! I'm playing my video games." But hopefully they'll listen. And one final question from Trey. He had one on design thinking. Like, is there anything while you're working through design thinking, any important values to keep in mind while going through it? Anything that
I'll go Ted Lasso. I'll go Ted Lasso on you. Be curious, not judgmental. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
On that. Be curious, not judgmental. It's really easy to shoot stuff down, shoot a person down.
yeah.
It's like the main thing is to be curious, be open, and then, stay on time. That's the whole thing. We have such a short amount of time, but curiosity is probably the biggest.
You need that
value
curiosity to
for
open
me.
up that diamond, fill it with, and be able to pull them down later.
Yeah, and when you're pulling them down, you're not, that's not really being judgmental. Those ideas may come back if you have to revisit them.
Yep.
So yeah, I think curiosity is a really important thing in design thinking.
So I'm going to yes and on Brian, and I say that there's, especially at Sabre, we're talking a lot about inclusion and diversity, and it's no secret I'm dyslexic. It's no secret that I'm working on the ideas group, and I think that if you're in a room with somebody who is talking completely different from you, to Brian's point, being open to those ideas, something that people struggle with. And if you're in a room with somebody that is kind of pushing your buttons, one of the things you could ask yourself is, why is this person pushing my buttons so much? And it may be because they're just thinking of things in a way that's completely different than the way you approach things or think about things. But there's a value in exploring and trying to understand where that person is coming from, because that's where we open up the aperture and open up the ideas on where really cool things will happen. And I'll just give some credit here to Brian and say, together we've created some really cool stuff, because Brian has given me the opportunity to express and develop some of those ideas, even when he didn't understand where it was coming from. And he had a lot of trust and gave me the opportunity to make those things happen. And then even tweaks working together collaboratively, he would then say, oh, okay, now I know where you're going with, how about we tweak it this way? And then we work together to come up with something that was really cool, unique, and valuable. And so if you're in a room with people that are opposite you or don't think like you or are different from you, be open to those ideas, because you never know when the germ of something really amazing is going to happen by learning how to connect with someone that you just normally wouldn't connect with.
Well said, Coach Beard. Well said.
So we're closing out the question and answer session.
I think Jim was laughing there, Jay.
I do. I think so.
Okay.
Was he laughing at us, Brian?
Coach Beard.
I'm not going to be that judgmental.
Yeah. I don't know what.
Coach Beard, Ted Lasso.
Yeah. I still
Ted
need
Lasso
to. Still need to borrow somebody's Apple account so I can watch Ted Lasso.
Oh, Jim.
Oh, you got to watch Ted Lasso, man. It's awesome.
There's Coach Lasso and Coach Beard.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
his assistant coach is Coach Beard. If I have to explain the reference, it just doesn't have the
work,
impact.
man.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
That's okay. Jim will now watch it because we mentioned it. So.
Brian, Jay, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us.